Welcome to Ayurveda and Spirituality with your host, Alakananda Ma, a renowned Ayurvedic expert and a graduate of a top London medical school. She is the principal of Alundi Ayurveda Gurukula, a unique apprenticeship-style school in Boulder, Colorado. She is a spiritual mother, teacher, flower essence maker, and storyteller. Join us as we uncover the
Seeing each one of you inseparable from baby Krishna, I come to you as your loving mother and most humble devotee. Welcome, my baby gods. Welcome especially to the men who've made it tonight. This conversation tonight is for you. And welcome also, I really requested the women to come because it's time we stopped seeing men as the enemy and understood however much women have suffered, as we discussed last time, these last few thousand years, we have to also understand and appreciate what has been the experience for men within these same paradigms. So thank you all. Everyone here, I believe, is either a man or a woman, so thanks very much for being here. I'd like to especially welcome and honor our Iraq warrior who is here tonight. My treasured godson, Iraq warrior, and this talk is most especially, of course, for you. You've been always in my mind as I was reflecting on this talk. I didn't know you would actually grace us with your presence. That's very fortunate. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yutsavaha mamaka pandavaschaiva Kim akurvata samjayaha. On the battlefield of Dharma, on the field of Kurus, what befell my sons, the sons of darkness, and the Pandavas, the sons of light? Now, please tell me, O Sanjaya. Thus spoke Dhritarashtra, the blind king, in the opening shloka of Bhagavad Gita. In a certain sense, it is that question that we're attempting to answer tonight. What indeed has befallen us in this battlefield of Dharma, in this place on earth where we struggle in what seems to be an unceasing battle between our healthy and our unhealthy tendencies, between the forces of light and the forces of darkness. In doing so, we're going to be discussing the topic of war no more, healing the male wound. It is my basic contention, and I have said this innumerable times, that if for but one generation we would not wage a war, we would never again be able to have a war. And I think you all are nodding in understanding, and we'll come to understand this, I hope, a little better during this talk. As I started reflecting, what on earth am I actually going to say in this talk, and what do I know about men anyway? As I started reflecting on this subject, I realized that the male wound is multiple, let's say at least fourfold. I'm going to hit on four aspects flowing throughout history of how the wounding of the masculine has occurred. And the first occurred at the time when it's described picturesquely in the Bible that once we lived in the Garden of Eden, and that refers to our Paleolithic existence, when as simple hunter-gatherers we had not a care in the world, and food was found as it was come upon. And nobody had to bring home the bucks. And then, the Bible very quaintly says that the woman incited the man to eat the fruit of the tree of technological know-how. And anthropologists have agreed with this, that it is indeed woman who instituted the Neolithic age. Because with her babies and whatnot, actually wandering around getting food here and there as it came wasn't very convenient. So women felt that it would be more appropriate to settle down and to learn how to till the soil, and then gradually how to husband animals. And so it's described in the Bible that this is a curse of the masculine, who is now cursed, that in the sweat of your brow shall you eat bread, and you shall till the soil which shall bear for you thorns and thistles. What this picturesque description is a distant memory of our fall from the grace of our life as Paleolithic hunter-gatherers to the now hard work and toil of Neolithic and beyond. As Ananda Kumaraswamy said, from the Stone Age to the present era, how great the decline. That decline was intensely felt by men who are very spatial. The male brain is very spatial and needs that freedom to roam around. If you've ever taught or even done a presentation in a class, you'll notice that the girls are able to sit there very nicely, but in a certain moment, all the boys start wriggling. And the only thing to do at that point is saying, I think we need to get up and stretch now. We're going to do a little bit of yoga now, then we'll go back to the talk. Because boys aren't meant to sit still and listen and be confined for long periods. They should have been out with their dads, learning how to hunt, move around, gather things. So for men, this was the first great wounding, was to be taken away from the hunt and then confined in the life of backbreaking toil for food. And Sadananda and I have talked and speculated among ourselves that the anger that men have borne to women and the desire to ultimately dominate women may come from that moment of feeling like, you took me away from a really good life and made me have to put in the hours, and I'm mad about it. So this is the first wounding of the masculine, is that fall from grace, that fall from Eden into the life of servitude to toil. Now comes the next wound, and it's an interesting one. As we have so often discussed in these talks, 4,000 years ago, we made a break with the Great Mother. That break with the Great Mother was essentially made in the Middle East through the Western world. In India and the Orient, the Great Mother was and is predominant. As my friend Mahalakshmi Mahalingam alias Kanchi said, if you scratch the patriarchy of India, you will find the matriarchy intact. She said, I was named by my father, Mahalakshmi, but I was named by my mother, Kanchi, and that's what everybody calls me, because the matriarchy is deep down. It's always there in India, but since now that the Western culture has come to increasingly dominate the world or be seen as in some way normative or standard, such as Indian music would be described as ethnic music, whereas Western music would be described as music. You go study Indian music in a department of ethnomusicology, not in a department of music. That's an idea of how Western culture has become in some way normative, and with it, this break, this rupture with the Great Mother has now been exported even to the lands which before had remained with the Mother. We've talked many times before about this rupture with the Mother and its manifold implications, but there was a severe implication for men, and that is the second wounding of the masculine, because in the era of the Great Mother, which we have described in these talks as the age of Taurus, in such societies, the men live in service to the feminine. They live in service to the wisdom principle, and this controls the pesky male ego so that it can't give you so much trouble. This is beautifully described in the book Callously, which was written by a Kerolan man who grew up in a Kerolan matriarchy. Of the era of the Great Mother never ended in Kerala, and of course you have to understand that to understand what Amachi comes out of. She comes out of the land of the great matriarchies that were in unbroken lineage. In their household, the women elders ruled and governed everything. The women priestesses conducted the rituals. Specific tasks were allotted to the men, be it the farming, be it pujas that they would conduct in the temple and so on. Everyone had their place in the whole, but there was no danger for the male ego to get out of control and start trying to run the show, because everything was being guided by the woman elders. So interestingly, the second wounding of the masculine occurs in the onset of the age of the father, the onset of the first masculine age, 4,000 years ago, because now the male need to live in service is violated, because the feminine is now subjugated and dominated, and that coming up of the dominator paradigm in which we still live since the last 4,000 years, we all know how deeply it has wounded women who were forced into unending servitude, and in most parts of the world that servitude has not ceased at all. But we have to also understand how deeply this has wounded men. Which is worse, to be the oppressed and the dominated and that which is in servitude, or to be that who has to live as the dominator, the oppressor, when deep in your heart you know that your only fulfillment comes in serving exactly that which your paradigm now compels you to dominate. That is, the feminine, the woman. There's a beautiful story about this oppression. It's in the book The Hiding Place, which is a story about some Dutch Christian women who sheltered Jews throughout World War II and were eventually caught and transported to Auschwitz along with the Jews they had sheltered. And the one sister, the one who died in Auschwitz, is watching a man beating some of the women, and she says, "Oh, the poor person." And for a moment her sister thinks she's referring to the poor person who's being beaten. And then she looks again and she realizes that her sister is weeping and praying for the SS guard who is doing the beating. Because the one who is suffering is having a physical and emotional assault, but the one who is beating is suffering a spiritual wound. So the women were wounded in our status and in our emotional wounding, our sexual wounding, through this dominator paradigm. For men, it has been a much deeper soul wounding of now you have to be that which you not really are, which is a dominator, an oppressor, when all you really long to do is to serve. I'm seeing some nods from some of the men, so maybe we're going along the right lines here. I'm hoping so. Now, as we come into the age of Aries, it's the beginning of the age of warfare. The age of Aries coincides with the discovery of iron, and it was very interesting when I had the opportunity to visit the Archaeological Museum at Jerusalem. You could see what this discovery of iron meant. At that time, the Hebrews were Stone Age people. They had very simple tools, very simple stone weapons. The Canaanites were Bronze Age people. They had weapons of bronze, but feared above all were the Phoenicians because they had iron. So they had the most superior military technology of the age, and that is what made them so oppressive and so feared, because they had tempered iron. With iron and steel and horses and chariots comes this whole mode of warfare, conquest, and domination, of which we have so often spoken in these talks. We've looked at what this has done to the earth, what this has done to women, what this has done to intimacy, and so on. But now we have to sincerely consider what in fact has this paradigm of domination, conquest, and warfare done to the soul of man. I had an unfortunate experience day before yesterday as I was riding the bus up to Fort Collins, and I had brought my Bhagavad Gita with me, intending that I had forgotten about movies on that bus, and I just thought I would be reading my Bhagavad Gita I would use the time on the bus to reflect about this talk. And then I'm being bombarded by this film about this black lawyer who's being attacked by the NSA, and there's all these helicopters whirling, and there's car chases, and things bursting into flames, and he's surviving against all odds, and he gets his woman back in the end, and he's just a little guy, and he did nothing wrong, but in the end, you may even know what this film is, but I didn't, because I only came in for like the last third of it, which was way too long. In the end, he triumphs over the bad, evil politicians and the oppressors and the NSA and all the watchdogs. He wins through in the end, and he gets his wife back. And I'm like, oh, this is such a boring, trite, dreadful film. And then they say, we want another film, or do we want quiet? And I try to say quiet, but I'm too far to the back, and the guy in front of me shouts, show Gladiator. Oh no, not another film. They start showing Gladiator, and it's horrendously violent, and there's this horrible war covering my eyes. And at a certain point, something goes off in my mind that said, Alkananda, you were here to prepare for your talk. Watch the film and prepare for your talk. The film is preparing for your talk. In that film, Gladiator, they don't mince words. This is no like dainty little war with people like prancing around on their nice horses going ching ching. This horrible blood, boiling oil, screams, smoke, total war. People are dying and screaming and groaning. This is war. And of course, there's your oppressed hero who's taking on the whole might of the corruption of the Roman Empire, and I only got to see the first maybe 30 minutes of this film, so I don't know what happened. It seemed impossible that it could end happily. This is the kind of energy that we're talking about. By the end of the age of Aries, we had invented total war. If the Romans, as I've said many times in these talks, if the Romans had had an atom bomb, they would have dropped one on Jerusalem. They cut down every tree within 10 miles of Jerusalem. They had the battering rams. They besieged the city until Josephus said they were so hungry that the women were eating their children. It was not concern for civilians, not laws of war. These people, Titus is the most major war criminal. And it's never ended. We've continued doing this ever since. It's beautifully portrayed in, not so much the film as in the book of 2001 Space Odyssey. In the film it shows, right, when the ape men realize they can use a tool, and they pick a bone up and they twirl it. Actually, even chimpanzees know how to use a bone. And they twirl it in the air, and the next thing you see is a spaceship. But in the book, it explains in much more depth and detail that since from the beginning of the Ice Age, our survival became dependent on our capacity to kill, whether to hunt or to kill others. We just have continued on that track of the technology of killing. So, it goes from bows and arrows to battering rams and boiling oil and boiling lead by the time of the Romans. And in the Middle Ages, of course, the latest technological invention is the crossbow. And that's like the ultimate cruise missile of those times, is you've actually got a crossbow instead of a longbow, and you kill a lot more people much faster with a crossbow. And so it's going on, and now we have all these missiles, and in the first Gulf War, what to speak of the current war in Iraq, it's fought as this technology war. And as anyone who's old enough to remember 10 or 12 years ago, the first Gulf War was portrayed in the media as this sterile war that was sort of like a video game, that was all about the amazing accuracy of our incredible technology and nobody getting hurt. I mean, is it possible that these weapons are so accurate that nobody got hurt? And of course, we had no quote-unquote casualties in that war because they all died afterwards, because they went out to war in tanks armed with depleted uranium, and they've been dying ever since by the hundreds of thousands. So we're coming with this immense development of this technology of warfare. So I think that is the next two wounds of the masculine, I think, are closely related, but I just want to separate them out a little bit. The first is when we turn the warrior into the soldier. Okay, there is not a difference in the heart of the young man who takes up arms. He's a young person. Wars are almost always fought by very young people. Actually, the brain is not mature until age 25. But much younger than this, we send people to war. In the heart of any soldier is the belief that he's a warrior. But there is a difference between the warrior and the soldier. Again, because the warrior is in his own power. He's not under the command of someone that is, it was the charge of the light brigade, or cannon to right of them, cannon to left of them, cannon in front of them, they're given the stupid command to charge, and they charge because some idiot commands them to charge. And they're supposed to be heroic because they've all just charged to their death, because they died a soldier's death because they did what they were told. And the SS guards in Auschwitz pled that excuse, I did as commanded. So the difference between a warrior and a soldier is that a warrior is an empowered being who fights for the right. And a soldier goes to war in that belief, but is actually engaging in warfare, which is all the things that it was portrayed to be on that hideous movie Gladiator, and much, much, much worse, because it's really happening to real people. And very closely related to this wounding of having the warrior become a soldier is then the exploitation of the soldier, the objectification. That immense objectification of men that has been taking place ever since. I'm not sure if I should be separating these two, but in my feelings it came out almost in a sequence, one and then the other. So if you don't go to war, if you didn't go to World War I, the greatest disaster in history, a senseless butchery of millions of young men, if you didn't go, some woman would hand you a white feather. And she would be saying, you have no warrior heart, or you should go fight for your country. And actually nobody's country was at stake in this completely senseless, utterly selfish, politically motivated war. But they went because they didn't want that white feather, because they had the warriorship. But who is behind the orders that are given to these young soldiers? Completely callous people who don't care about what's going to happen to any one individual soldier. My mother told me about World War II. She told me about American GIs in World War II. She said in Britain there were very few. Winston Churchill did his speech about the fighter pilots and said, truthfully and accurately, never before in the history of the world has so much been owed by so many to so few. Because it was the handful of picked and highly trained British fighter pilots who held Hitler at bay single-handedly before America joined the war. And my mother said, when America came in, everything changed. Because we had to fight to minimize our casualties, because we had very few people to wage this war. But she said when America came into the war, they had the attitude, there are plenty more when these came from, send the boys in. She said, I used to go to dances with these American GIs and my heart was breaking because I saw the attitude, there are plenty more where they came from. Just send them in. doesn't matter what happens to them, there are going to be more. We can refill these ranks. The grey ghost can come back over with another shipload and another shipload, thousands more each time. And we can send them back. We can send more, and we can send more, and we can send more. So this is the final wounding of the masculine, is how we have deeply objectified, having taken the warrior and made the warrior a soldier, now we make the soldier pawns in a political game. How many wars have been fought with meaning? You know, even in World War II, why didn't they bomb the tracks to Auschwitz? They couldn't spare any planes to bomb the tracks and save hundreds of thousands of lives by making it impossible for at least the Romanian Jews could have been saved if they had just bombed the tracks. But they wouldn't do it because it wasn't in the plan. There was, even in fighting that more heroic of wars, seemingly, there's still all this political plan. So, every boy is essentially a hero in the making. The word in Sanskrit is saurya, heroism. Heroism is an essential quality of the masculine. It's what makes men strong, and it is what makes men immensely vulnerable to this particular type of abuse or exploitation that we're speaking of. Because every man has the heart of a hero and wants to take that hero's journey and wants to fight and wants to sacrifice his life and even his body on behalf of protecting, serving, helping others. That's the hero's journey. And coldly and callously has this genuine aspiration. For the last 4,000 years, this has been callously exploited. You know, I don't believe that anybody goes to war for just a paycheck. Okay, there are actual mercenary armies, so I guess they'll fight for just a paycheck. But recruiters don't go around telling you you're going to get a paycheck. They go around saying, be all you can be. You know, you're gonna fulfill your hero's journey. We'll help you to make this hero's journey. We'll make a man of you. We'll enlarge you. You will fulfill this deep yearning in your heart to be a hero. You will defend liberty. You will protect your country. This is what is being told. This is what was told when people went into the utterly callous World War I to just kill each other. I know there's the famous Christmas Day football game in World War I. When it's Christmas Day, so they call a truce and they get out of the trenches and they shake hands and they play football. And it's really clear to all these guys that none of them needs to kill the other one. They bear the people in the other trenches no enmity. They're just young men like themselves, trying to stay alive, down there in the mud, just like them. So can you understand what I'm saying? It's just the completely callous way in which, within this dominator paradigm, we continually exploit this blossoming flower of heroism becomes objectified and then degraded. And then, of course, the ultimate wound is actually being in a war. Because once you're actually in a war, it's a psychic overwhelm. How does the heart of compassion make it through a war? It's very, very hard for the heart of compassion to make it through war. That's why we have to keep having wars. Because if we didn't have a war, we would raise a generation of young men whose heroism was undimmed and the vulnerability of their heroism was still wide open and the heart of their compassion was not wounded. And if we did that, they wouldn't beat their sons. And they wouldn't yell at their sons. And they wouldn't say to their sons, you get out on that playground and you fight or I'll beat the living daylights out of you. They wouldn't do that. They'd say, you work it out with your friends. You learn how to resolve conflict. You use your words. Because there wouldn't be post-traumatic stress. Actually, because we continually have a war in every generation, it means that every generation of boys gets raised by war, trauma, post-traumatic stress father. Maybe not every boy. In my own family, I had the immense good luck that none of the men killed anyone in a war. My grandfathers on the one side were conscientious objectors. They were on the front lines as stretcher bearers, just like Jar has been doing as a stretcher bearer, picking up the wounded, unarmed, sitting targets. They made it out alive. My other grandfather would never speak about the war, but he was a translator, so he wasn't on active service. And my father was sick and had TB, but he said that he would have gone to prison rather than fight. He was going to be conscientious objector, but he got out anyway on account of TB. So that been my good luck. Maybe not in every single household that dad has war trauma, but in enough families, in enough households of each generation that we can keep perpetuating the calloused over heart, the frozen ice block heart, as what a man is supposed to be. Because war is going to do that to you. War has a great tendency. This gentleman here went to war and kept his heart wide open. It's been a great heroic achievement on his part. But generally speaking, for the majority of people, especially if you're not protected by great devotion and a powerful faith, being hurled into that maelstrom of war and front lines and killing is going to do something to your heart. It's getting worse in today's wars, Vietnam on, because these are urban wars. These are wars where you don't know friend from enemy. The guys that are in Iraq today are there to, quote-unquote, protect Iraqis, never knowing which one of the people they're protecting could be going to kill them at any moment. These are very young people. You know, we're talking 18, 19, 20, and you're there to protect people, and you're following your rules of engagement, but you don't know who's going to kill you, and then suddenly something really bad happens, like a family with young children gets shot at a checkpoint because they were hurrying and they went too fast, and it's kill or be killed. Nobody meant to kill a family with young children. Nobody wanted to do that. Actually, the trauma that those children suffered who lost their parents is at least equaled, if not greatly exceeded, by the trauma that the young men suffered who unwittingly committed that act and didn't know how to deal with their feelings about having done that. They didn't mean to shoot at a family car and kill 3 or 4 little kids' parents. They didn't bring that intention at all. They just wanted to survive, to be alive in a war where you don't know who your enemies are. And when you don't know who your enemies are, you start to think of everyone that looks different from you as a dink or whatever. You know, it's some derogatory phrase for everybody whose eyes are different, whose skin color is different, who could be an enemy, who could be going to set off an IED, who could be going to get me. And I want to get out of here alive. I'm not about hurting other people, but I want to stay alive. So these kind of wars, Vietnam on, have been incredibly, outstandingly traumatic because of this sense of not knowing. You don't know where the enemy is, in front, behind, the person you're going to shake hands with, the enemy could be anywhere. I remember when I was young and it was the troubles in Ireland, and they every night showing on the television news the troubles in Ireland. I would look at these really young English soldiers, 18 years old, and everybody there hates them. The Protestants hate them because they're defending the Catholic neighborhood from being attacked. The Catholics hate them because they're part of the oppressor that's conquered and divided their country for centuries. Everybody hates these guys. Everybody doesn't want these kids to be there. They're standing there in total fear, trying to do their job. Because they joined the army because they wanted to make their hero's journey. And here they are, in a country where nobody wants them to be there, and they're in constant danger. And nobody is grateful for their work. And I think it's probably not very different in Iraq today, the same kind of feeling. You're there because you thought you were going there to defend against the WMDs that were never found, to give liberty to people who don't appear to be grateful for having been liberated by people that are occupying them, armed to the teeth. I think it's not very different in Iraq. Nowadays I don't watch television news anymore, personally, so I don't get to see the pictures, but I imagine that it is not very different. So we've laid out a sense of how it is that the male has been wounded in many ways more deeply than women. Because this is a wounding really of the soul of the hero. To take the hero, make the hero into a soldier, knock that budding hero around through their childhood because you made sure dad went to war and learned to act like a sergeant major instead of like a dad, and then callously exploiting because of political agendas, callously exploiting that heart of heroism. What are we going to do? As we come into a new paradigm, what is the future of warriorship? We have to find a way forward for healing the male wound that treads a path in between machismo, which is the dominator paradigm and the impact of that war imprint again and again on the male psyche. On the one hand, there's the machismo, and on the other hand, I'm getting away from all the machismo, and I'm going to be really nice. I'm going to be a really nice guy. I'm not interested in being a hero. Listen to me, I'm sensitive, I'm nice. We haven't quite got there either, because we've talked about sensitive guy before in these talks. Sensitive guy doesn't want to be sensitive guy. Sensitive guy wants to be a hero. And macho guy doesn't want to be macho. He wants to be a hero. So, war is clearly obsolete. If it ever was any use, clearly today's wars are entirely obsolete. If we used the weapons that we have at our disposal, if we only used the weapons we have here in the state of Colorado, there'd be no more world. There'd be no more need to fight any wars because we have enough nukes in the silos here in our beautiful state of Colorado to eliminate solve the problem of war by solving the problem of humanity. God. I think isn't that a song by Donovan? And there's no more war, 'cause there's no more world. That's one way to end war, is that the mass suicide, we've taken our technology to the extreme of unusable. Because now Bush is trying to make the battlefield nuclear weapon so that we can actually use it. Other countries have it, so we have to too. We need to be able to go to war with battlefield nuclear weapons now. This is not the way forward. War is obsolete. We can, in fact, sit down and talk about our differences. They're now teaching in the primary schools that children don't fight, talk about it. Say, I want, I need, I feel. Talk it over. Actually, countries could talk it over. We don't have to have war. If we need to fight about national flags, that's what the Olympic Games are supposed to be about. The Indians and the Pakistanis have it down. They fight test match. Conquer each other that way. Fight it out there. And it's reported in the news very militaristically. They fought, and they won, and they conquered, and they're gaining the victory. Have that kind of war. You both got nuclear weapons, just go fight test matches. We don't need to fight a war with nuclear weapons. If war is obsolete, God willing, it will be obsolete either because we're extinct, or be obsolete because we've learned to go, like this talk said, war no more. That's a Hebrew song. And every man neath his vine and fig tree shall dwell secure and unafraid. And every man neath his vine and fig tree shall dwell secure and unafraid. And into plowshares beat their swords, nations shall study war no more. And then it goes on, it's around. That was prophesied thousands of years ago, that we would beat our swords into plowshares and we would no longer study war. We would no longer train for war. Does that end the warrior and the hero? No. That's a beginning. What is really the warrior? The warrior in Sanskrit is kshatriya, which is kshatat trayate. The one who takes away the kshatat, the oppression that others endure. That is a warrior. There's plenty of oppression and trouble and darkness and ecological problems and species extinctions and poverty and lack of clean drinking water. There's plenty of issues in the world for the hero to journey out and solve these issues. So it is not that we are to bid farewell to the way of the warrior. Actually, we should resurrect the way of the warrior. We need to allow our boys to pursue the journey of becoming a hero without exploiting the immense vulnerability of that longing to protect others and be a hero. It makes men very vulnerable. Even in the most intimate relationships, the man is always vulnerable because he gets upset if he can't fix it. And the woman, we're having a whole drama, everything in the whole world is wrong. And he'll come up with a solution and he'll say, no, it's never going to work. Well, how about this? That will never work too. The man is very vulnerable because he actually wants to come up in white knight, shining armor, and actually give a solution, but as a woman, you're in your whole leg thing. We've done this a million times. They've told you all so many times, I'm drama queen, right? If I'm in a mood, nothing will ever solve the problem, and Sadananda can present the most brilliant solutions. I'll be like, it's never going to work because... So even in the most intimate relationships, the man is vulnerable because of the open heart of heroism that actually wants to come in and genuinely solve the problems and genuinely actually remove the trouble. For the man, it's not about having a drama about having a trouble. It's about, let's fix it. Let's actually solve it for you. I can make this problem go away. In the intimate relationship level, women, if we don't give the man a chance to make the problem go away, we're going to emasculate him. He needs to be able to be the problem solver and feel that he is able to make your problem go away. He probably could, if you would let him. And sometimes we get into the whole superwoman thing. Who's going to have a good relationship with superwoman? Because other than sexually, superwoman cannot be penetrated. She has no problems to solve. She's got them all fixed. got it all together. It's never going to work. In relationship to the man, we have to be able to simply say, this is a problem that I have. And not say, and that means that you need to blah, 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 because we just said, this is a problem I had, this is how you need to solve it. We have a son. They just became a son. This is the problem that I have. Oh, what do you think should be done about it? And the usual example I give is that the plant is blocking, this tall plant is blocking the light from the window. Instead of saying, move that plant, maybe he's going to knock in another window. You know, he has his own way of solving the problem, coming from the male brain, which is spatial, and going to come from a different angle than the female brain, which is, I go from here to here to here. Going to come from somewhere over here. It's called Knight's move, right? Knight moves 1, 2, and to the side. The male brain is going to come at it from, that's a new angle on it. I guess we could solve the problem that way. So whether in outer life or in intimate relationships, can we honor that the genuine vulnerability of the real warrior, because this heart is very open in wanting to protect, to serve, to solve, to fix. Doesn't have to be a bad thing to want to fix. The Bhagavad Gita offers one beautiful shloka that describes what in fact the warrior is. What are the qualities of the warrior? Saryam tejo dhati taksham yutta chapyapalayanam dhanam ishvara bhavascha kshatram karma swabhavajam. The warrior is endowed with saurya, with this quality of heroism. The quality of heroism means it's a supreme altruism. I will offer even my body. It's like, you can't even imagine what Sadananda went through to get here. He didn't even eat the whole day. He got dropped off at the wrong bus stop. He had to go to his niece's graduation. He almost missed the ride to the niece's graduation. He overcame immense obstacles to make his niece happy by being at her graduation, her one only high school graduation, and to make you all happy by keeping his commitment to be here tonight. So heroism doesn't have to be about warfare. It's like, I said I would do it. People need me. I'm going to overcome inconceivable difficulties to do this. At my own cost, I will do what is needed for others. Women can be heroes too. And we all need to have that altruism to sacrifice ourselves for others. The next is Tejas. Tejas is radiance, is splendor. The quality of Tejas gives us, it's a mental capacity to know right from wrong, to be decisive, to be clear. A kind of brilliance of mind that knows what needs to be done and knows how to do it. This is the brilliance of the warrior. When I was a little girl, there was a famous tennis player, Arthur Ashe. And I was an armchair tennis player because with my astigmatisms I can't hit a tennis ball with a racket. But, boy, that man, complete cool and always knew what to do next. Tejas, brilliant, brilliant mind in action, in that speed of action of playing tennis, just incredible brilliance of knowing what to do. Dhriti. Dhriti is the stability, the unshakability of the warrior. The warrior has that quality that will not be shaken. And I just got to read a brilliant letter to the Catholic worker by a Mexican who went AWOL from Iraq and wrote a whole letter about why he did it. And he wrote his letter and he said, I am apologizing, but I'm not apologizing for going AWOL. I'm apologizing that I went and killed people in that war. I'm apologizing to the people of Iraq, and I'm apologizing to my parents. And I'm apologizing to the people of America, because we should have never, in my opinion, we should have never gone into that war, and I should have never been a part of it. Whether you think his opinions were right or wrong, the point is this individual had that vritti, he had that quality of, I am right, and I know what is right, and in my heart, it is right for me to be here in jail refusing to go to this war, because that is my truth, and I am doing what is right for me. So it's the unshakability of, he is a warrior, he's able, you might say he's not a warrior, or he's a coward, but he's having that, he doesn't believe this war is right, he doesn't think he signed up to do that, and he's not going to be there, and that's just and you can do whatever you like, it's just the way it is. That's part of the qualities of a warrior. Then he has, the next one is the daksham yudhe, dexterity in battle. Actually, just how to keep going, continually having the dexterity, the skillful means. It's basically a question of skillful means, which is the quality of the masculine. The quality of the masculine is you don't freak out in any situation. You know, we women have a lot going on in our minds, and then we freak out. But the real quality of the male is you're not going to freak out. You just got to, you take that one and you know what to do. Skillful means. How do we play this? We women have to also learn, as we get older, we need to embody that same quality, skill in battle. Don't freak out, just play it. Play it skillfully. If you freak out, you have dropped the ball. And I've dropped a lot of balls, I promise you. And then apalayanam, not to flee. To stand your ground and you will not flee. I didn't have time to find a Shakespeare, but I should have been reading you from Henry V, Part 1, the St. Crispin's Day speech. When the handful of men are rallied by Henry V, and he gives the whole rallying speech on how men will always remember St. Crispin's Day, and how we few fought against so many, and of course they beat them. Because they stand their ground and they do not flee. And the enemy flies before their valor of standing their ground. Can we stand our ground for the environment? Can we stand our ground for peace? Can we stand our ground for the poor and not flee? My father taught me this. Years before, there were cruise missiles in Britain. They were stationed in Britain. My one sister was camping, demonstrating against the cruise missile. My other sister participated in encircling Greenham Common, where the missiles were. I asked my father about it, and he said, those weapons can never be used. I said, why, Dad? He said, they can't use them from the silos. They put them on the roads to mobilize them. He said, and I will personally lie down in front of them, and so will thousands of others, and they can't kill us all. And the force of the people in saying we would rather, and this was Cold War years, we would rather be killed by the Russians than have anyone be killed by these cruise missiles, became so strong that they all got removed. And no more weapons of mass destruction can be stationed in Britain because the people don't want to live like that. Well, we are here in Colorado, and we have our weapons of mass destruction lined up all around us. So like the nuns that are in prison because they went and spilled a little blood and hammered a little bit on one of those missiles, they had that quality of not flying from the battle. I mean this, I stand by this, this is the way it is. The warrior has great generosity, and that's the most important quality of the warrior, the most important thing that's gone wrong with the archetype of the warrior. Because in the dominator paradigm, we go from warriors to warlords. An ultimate situation, a society like Afghanistan, or a society like Somalia, which is ruled by warlords who live on the fat of the land while women and children starve. Because they have the weapons and they have the strength, and they use it to get for themselves. These people, these warlords, are not warriors. They are the antithesis of any warrior. Because the warrior is always characterized by generosity, and the purpose of the warrior is actually to protect the lowly people, the simple people, the defenseless people, women, children, the poor. Having the generosity, the great generosity of spirit that you offer your body and even your life, so that you can defend the poor, defend the earth, defend the forests. Like that woman, Julia Butterfly Hill, who sacrificed a big chunk of her life to saving one tree, living in that tree. She's having the real generosity of the warrior. It takes, and again, like Southern Undercoming here today, what immense generosity of spirit to get up from being in bed with flu and go through all this and actually come here. The generosity makes the difference between being a warrior and being a warlord or even just a soldier. Elijah, I think that's why you kept your heart open, because being a medic, you were having that generosity and always healing people from all sides, friends and foes, picking them up, putting yourself in harm's way, so you were healing others. So through the practice of generosity, even if you're stuck in Iraq, you can make your own self be a warrior. The one way to do it is like the man that went AWOL. That's one choice. Another choice is to say, you can't stop me being here, being a warrior. And that's what Elijah did. Because I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this my way. I will keep a generous spirit. And I will do it as a warrior. Because that's what I'm here to do. I'm going to do my duty, and I'm going to do it really generously. You can be a warrior and work at IBM. You know, my friends, I have some very good friends that work at IBM. How you're a warrior at IBM? You pull a team together. I said to my friend, well, you're going away for 2 weeks. Does that mean work's horrendous before you leave and work's horrendous when you get back? And he said, we have a team. We take care of each other. My friends will work a little harder while I'm gone, and I'll work harder while they're gone. But nobody's holiday is going to mean they work double time when they leave and double time when they come back. So that they're practicing that heroism and that generosity in those dark holes of IBM, because they're having a real spirit of team and serving each other. It doesn't have to be limited to if you work for Greenpeace or you're in Iraq or something. And then Ishvara Bhavas, that's having that a real sense of lordliness, not a sense of domination, but as a sense of, you take one look at this person, you know you need to respect them. That's Ishvara Bhavas. This person is genuinely a lord, because since they have all these other qualities, they're going to stand their ground, they're going to not flee, they're totally firm, they're established in their beliefs, they're completely generous. It's a godlike quality. When one is protecting others, the people that are being protected are going to look up to that person as having a godlike quality. That's what my guru said to me about being a doctor. He said, you'll heal people, and the people will look to you as a god. Because when we're really serving people, it's a godlike quality. So the warrior who truly protects, who truly cares for, who truly is looking out for the women, the children, the weak, the vulnerable, the earth, the other soldiers, and so on, is acting like a god. People look up to you because of the protection that you offer. These are the duties of the kshatriya, which are born of their own nature. It's born of the essence of the heart of a man. And a beautiful line of commentary from Swami Chidbhavananda, which says that the best man is the Brahma Rishi, who is the embodiment of divinity. The second best is the embodiment of dharma, the kshatriya. The Brahma Rishi pays all attention to the godliness in man, and the Raja Rishi pays all attention to the manliness in man. Excuse the sexist language, he's an elderly Indian gentleman. But it is only after being an ideal man that a man becomes a God man. So even if you know that your real destiny is you want to be like someone like Sadananda, you want to be a Brahma Rishi, you want to be someone whose heroism is to inspire others on their spiritual path and perform your spiritual practice, you still have to pass through that man-making journey. For a man, there's no getting out of finding your warriorship, even if ultimately what you want to be is the man of wisdom. You have to find your way through that journey. So that the way of being a warrior is crucial for men, and I think we all need to come together at this time to heal this wounding of that vulnerable, open heart of the warrior. And that's why I'm really, really grateful that some women did come tonight. You know, however few people come, for one person that comes to one of these talks, many more people get changed, because your mind gets changed. You talk to other people, you say different things, you act different ways, and the world starts to change. So even though there's not so many women here tonight, it's still going to make an impact. We need to nurture that open heart of the warrior. We need to support that open heart of the warrior. As the mothers and the lovers and the wives and the daughters of men, we women need to support that. And as the fathers and the brothers and the sons of men too, we need to support and honor that genuine heart of the warrior. Because without the warrior, the mother of compassion cannot manifest as she now desires to manifest in the world. You know, in the fall at the ashram, we did a Little Girls Festival. And for so many years we did the Little Girls Festival with only all little girls, and we have the Divine Mother up on her throne, and we have all the little girls around. Until 2 years ago, a Sikh boy showed up with his buddy, and they're in their Sikh warrior dress, and they've got their swords, and they say, "We have come to guard the Divine Mother." And they stood behind her throne, and they guarded her. And I thought, that's a really great idea. So next year, I invited the boys too, and I said, the girls can come as representations of the Divine Mother, and the boys can come as guards. And the boys were excited for weeks. And the whole ceremony was late because one little boy forgot his sword, and he had to go home to get his sword. And they all stood with their swords, and they all stood behind the mother's throne, and they guarded the mother, because the mother cannot come, the mother of compassion cannot manifest without the genuine warrior heart. And she can never manifest in the world of RoboCop. She can never manifest in the world of Terminator. She can never manifest in the world where the warrior becomes the techno-killer with armored skin and a computer heart. She cannot be born into such a world. We cannot bring her forth. So we have to stop distorting the warrior into the techno-killer. We have to stop giving our children toys. The little boy that forgot his sword appeared at the ashram one day and proudly showed me this toy. I think you all know what it is. You move it one way and it's a motorbike, and then you move it another way and it's a person. What? This is not okay. These are not the toys that we need to give our little boys. We need to give them swords and shields. And ways that, and bows and arrows and archery lessons, but not toys. They're called transformers, right? They're really, really ugly and they're plastic. And one moment they're a machine and the next moment they're a man. This is not okay. What are we telling our boys? This is from kindergarten, the imprint of you are supposed to be nothing but a killing machine. And men are just killing machines. And then we're really upset because men are not only killing machines on the fields of battle, but they're killing machines at home too. Men are so bad. We asked for it. We rewarded men for becoming killing machines. We gave them toys from little boyhood that said, you're supposed to be a killing machine. We train them to become a killing machine. When they come home and they're killing machines, then the women will all take to the streets and march about how bad men are. It's not about men being bad. It's not about women being bad either. It's about truly honoring the warrior heart, without which the mother of compassion cannot live on this earth, because she must have her retinue of genuine, open-hearted warriors who will fight for the earth and fight for the poor and fight for the rights of women in countries where women are still so oppressed, and fight for minorities and fight for all who are oppressed. Not necessarily fighting with weapons, but fighting in ways like Gandhi and Martin Luther King showed us, that we do put our bodies and our lives on the line, but we do so without harming, and we do so without hating. Because even the ones who seem to be the really bad guys, they just got there too because they got a Terminator toy when they were little. You know what I mean? We created our own President Bush. He's a manifestation of our own mind. Nobody is the bad guy. Nobody is the enemy. But the real warrior, it's like Gandhi and this.